I am Geoffrey and in the Kingdom of Sweden campaign from 1648, 30 Years of War, a kingdom's total conversion mode from medieval to total war by Enfracta. We are in the month of October 1631. We have just taken Weimar and Erfurt. There are still some Imperialist armies scattered in Saxony. The small army, for example, in northern Saxony. Melchior de Maradas is outside Leipzig with a strong army, but he's not laying siege on Leipzig, at least not yet. Leipzig has a strong garrison of highly trained post-reform units under Gustav Gustafsson von Wasaburg. Here is again the King of Sweden in Erfurt. The Scottish Brigade is now outside Weimar, which has a very strong garrison of very capable veterans and highly trained recruits under Sverker von Dörgitz. Gustav Horn is also encamped by Weimar, as is Johann Casimir von Wellen, with a few depleted units under his command. In the east, a Polish army under Captain Maslav has put Bromberg under siege. Bromberg is defended by Captain Adolf Theodor, and Alain de Couville arrives with a small relief force. Here is the Polish army, mainly cavalry, some dragoons, and a unit of pikemen. There will be two sieges of small towns in today's episode, and this is the first one. The garrison sallies out. By now you know the drill. Alain de Couville comes to reinforce the garrison. Remember, the campaign is on ultra hard. I am using a special campaign script. Normally the AI would not be so aggressive, attacking all the time. It is up to you to decide on the difficulty level, but if you choose very hard, what you will get will be very hard, because that is fair for those who want a hard campaign. And very hard means a strong and aggressive AI. Anything else would be not very hard. Yeah? So very hard cannot be very hard in name only. If you would rather turtle it out and build up your cities and army first, then try an easier difficulty level. It's no shame. People, be honest with yourselves and with what you want from the game. So here are the units under Alain de Couville, slowly moving to reinforce the garrison that has sallied out. Right in front of us in the foreground is Alain de Couville with his bodyguard. He advances nearer our enemy with the aim to start sniping other units to draw them in the direction of the garrison that has now deployed outside Bromberg to the rear. And so in the distance you can see the Polish units. And our captain here has opened fire. The enemy is now making their move. They're moving in our direction with their cavalry. The Polish captain, Captain Maslav, has mostly cavalry under his command, a company of winged hussars, two companies of arquebusiers, you see one of them here, a company of Cossack dragoons, and just one company of pikemen for infantry. So here's one of the company of arquebusiers, here's the other one, here in the distance. There. And we have some dragoons on the walls that have opened fire. Are they approaching arquebusiers? And our pikemen move forward. They clash with the arquebusiers here. Arquebusiers retreat very wisely. Another unit of arquebusiers is covering their retreat. Now they are both retreating. One of them has been routed, the other retreats in good order. They are being massacred all the way by the dragoons of the walls and the musketeers deployed on the ground. There was a company of winged hussars here, but they arrived a little too late, and by now the enemy arquebusiers are retreating, so they have no cover, so they decide to retreat as well. And as they're retreating, they're being fired at by our dragoons on the walls. They're suffering casualties. The enemy winged hussars are very highly experienced. They have a golden chevron of experience. However, they are wise enough not to attack by themselves. They're waiting for the arquebusiers to rally and come back. In the meantime, they are galloping out of range of our dragoons on the walls very wisely. And having gone out of range of the dragoons, now they're going to wait for the arquebusiers to come so they can give them some cover. They are preparing their attack. The arquebusiers gallop faster, they have lighter armor, they have no armor, so they'll be able to catch up. Well, it looks like the winged hussars are going to have a go on their own, which is risky. Here are the arquebusiers. They've made it perfect timing, so they've gone in, they're moving forward to cover the attack of the winged hussars, and our own musketeers have opened fire. We also have some dragoons out here. Our pikemen are ready to receive the winged hussars. The arquebusiers fired a volley and then retreated. There's another group of arquebusiers approaching, and here are the winged hussars. Very wisely, they have attacked a company of halberdiers, garrison halberdiers that were sallied out. Perhaps they didn't notice, however, that among the halberdiers were also some double-handers.
Pray something changes in the course of battle, for defeat seems almost certain.
And the double-handers are very capable in this mode. In vanilla, they had very low stats, the double-handers. So they didn't have the stats they deserved, and so they're a little bit underwhelming. But in Kingdoms and in our mod, they have better stats. So they managed, with the help of the halberdiers, to scare off the winged hussars. The winged hussars have moved up, or rather moved back, and now they are attacking our other tertiary there. We have some pikemen on that side. They have arquebusiers for cover. On the other hand, we have our dragoons here that fire at their backs. One of the arquebusier units has been routed, I think, off the field of battle. The winged hussars are now entangled into melee with our pikemen. They have this mercenary pikemen. They thought better of it and they have retreated. Our halberdiers are chasing after them.
The enemy general has no honor. He flees the field of battle and abandons his men.
And our arquebusiers are also chasing after them. And now the enemy arquebusiers have been routed. The winged hussars are making a brave stand. Our infantry has become a little bit disorganized here. The halberdiers were running after the winged hussars, and they routed the arquebusiers, and somehow they got separated from the double handers, which is not very good. And so you can see the halberdiers on the right, double handers here on the left. They separate. Double handers are doing very well. So we killed a few of the enemy winged hussars. Hussars don't give up, but they are not winning.
The enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost half their men.
So finally the enemy sends in his pikemen. They've just arrived, it took quite some time. And now they're being fired at by everyone. So they're being fired at by the musketeers on the ground, by the dragoons on the walls, they're being attacked in the rear by double-handers, and they can't take this anymore. They also have the arquebusiers, our arquebusiers, firing at their rear. So they were completely surrounded. And they have been broken, and they are now retreating. The enemy cavalry is also retreating. There's a handful of enemy horsemen still left. Yeah, the enemy ensign and the enemy captain of the pike unit have been taken prisoners. The pikemen here, there's still a few left. They're running for their lives. And our cavalry now is chasing off the routed enemy winged hussars. A handful of them survived the battle, and because in the distance they're leaving the field of battle. There are also some dragoons, I do believe. They're also retreating. Our arquebusiers are running after the winged hussars. The arquebusiers have no armor. The winged hussars have armor as well as those enormous wings, and so our arquebusiers have caught up with them. And if they really fought with those massive wings, then they would have been a huge impediment. I'm not sure. I assume they had them for parades and for show,
if we
so
remain
on, but they
true
didn't
and
use them in
steadfast,
battle.
victory will be ours.
If they use those massive wings in battle for show, for something, they would really slow them down. And that's the effect you see here. They're wearing them, so they've been slowed down. They've been caught up by our arquebusiers. They've been taken prisoner.
Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press the attack.
And so also in the distance are those dragoons, those Cossack dragoons. They are running for their lives. Dragoons would usually be on horses, but they would fight dismounted. The horses that dragoons had were second-rate horses. They were old horses or whatever. There were no real war horses. So they were not as good as the horses of the rest of the cavalry. They couldn't run as fast, they could get caught, as it happens here. And that's why they prefer to fight on foot.
All of Christendom will be awed by the victory we have won here today.
On the other hand, they would fight on foot, yes, but behind cover. So, Captain Adolf Theodor has won decisively with relatively light losses, considering the high quality of the enemy army. Some of the units did very well. One of the infantry units killed over 100 men. The captives are released. Bromberg is once again safe. But a bit further down, a bit further south, an Imperialist army has laid siege on Glogau.
An order, my lord. We shall slaughter them, my lord!
Glogau is defended by Georg von Brandenburg-Bayreuth, and a small relief force under Captain Axel comes to his aid. The Imperialists have brought some decent infantry, including some Silesian engineers. You see here, that's a first for the Imperialists. We also have some Silesian engineers of our own. So, once again, the relief force reinforces the garrison that is sallying out, as you can see. So here's the relief force. We have some cavalry here, some arquebusiers under the command of Captain Axel. And further in the distance, you can see the garrison units that have sallied out. 2 blocks of pikes and a group of white brigade musketeers that you see here. There's something else I should perhaps say. Those of you who have not played the game for some time, you may remember that there was a kind of bug that caused the besieging units to set up too close to the walls. So they would be fired at from the garrison in the open, even from the cannons of the start forts. Here our general is firing at the enemy, trying to entice them to attack. So that bug was corrected in a patch a few years ago, in 2013 actually. So during sieges, the AI should deploy out of range of the garrison in the towers, as it is doing here. If it doesn't, you're not fully patched up. Download the mod from Infractor or the torrent and reinstall the mod. The latest version has all the patches. You don't need to install any patches. So here's our infantry, some old school musketeers with helmets and leather jackets to protect them from the debris of battle, from all kinds of stray things flying around. Not really from bullets. Anyway, and they're firing at the enemy dragoons here, these Cossacks. Now, dragoons usually had shorter barrel muskets with shorter barrels for some reason, and they also were not firing by rotation of rank, so they were not drilled to fire in that way. And so overall they had a shorter effective range than proper musketeers. And so you see now they're not firing back because they're being within the range of the musketeers on the walls, whereas they themselves don't have the range. And so what they're doing is they're pulling back very wisely. They're trying to pull back out of range. However, because of their elongated, awkward formation, the front ranks are being exposed to fire from the guards. And they're losing men. But at least they're keeping a kind of distance. So, the slight engagement with the enemy Cossack dragoons has made the enemy to attack. So they've been forced to come to the aid of the dragoons. Well, at least it looked so for a while. They're moving back again. They seem torn by indecision whether to attack us or not, which is wise. I think if they come too close to the walls, they start getting fired from the units on the walls, and they don't like that. And so now they're retreating. But it works both ways. They don't like it, but then they're also annoyed by the fire from the walls. So they go into this kind of back and forth sort of indecision whether to attack or not. Now they're again within range of that musket unit on the walls. They've been fired at, and as soon as they've been fired at, they begin to rethink what to do. Sometimes they move back, sometimes they continue attacking. So the enemy general here, with these arquebusiers, has decided to make a move forward and bravely brave the fire from the walls to come to the aid of the Cossack dragoons. The Cossack dragoons are in the distance. There are a few of them still left. And here this cavalry that's moving is actually our general. Having enticed the enemy to attack us, he is now retreated and he's going to take cover behind that block of pikes. Here we have some arquebusiers ready to pounce upon the enemy and open fire at their flank if they come too close. That's exactly what they're about to do now. So our arquebusiers moving up to flank the enemy arquebusiers. The enemy captain is with that cavalry unit. And now there's an exchange of fire between the Polish arquebusiers and our own. However, the Polish arquebusiers also been fired at by our musketeers, and so now they are not doing so well. They've lost quite a few horsemen. They are losing this fight, and so they've decided to retreat. Again, very wisely, they're retreating. They don't have the cover of the Cossacks anymore. The Cossacks are also retreating. So here are the enemy arquebusiers. They are retreating. The Cossacks have been decimated. They also have a few men left, less than a dozen. And the entire enemy army seems now to be pulling out. They seem to have given up on the siege, and they are going to abandon the field of battle. They look like they're lifting the siege. So we're going to send our general to harass them a little bit and hope they change their mind.
Battle seems to be swinging in our favor. From such tidings does victory emerge.
So here's our general. He's firing at the retreating enemy. Sally outs are a game of cat and mouse. In other words, you have to trick them to come close to you so you can circle them or pounce at them, fire at them from the walls, and they realize that they're trying to move away. So there are a couple of things we would have liked to improve on in this mod, but have been very difficult. So the enemy is attacking now. One of these difficult things is the occasionally buggy star forts. If anyone has experience on modeling settlements, your help would be much appreciated. The star forts have been a huge project, not quite finished. If anyone thinks they can finish it, it would be great. The other problem is probably intractable unless someone knows how to mod the animations. Oh, here's the enemy general.
By St. George, our men have slain the enemy general. Without him, his troops will lose their will to fight.
And he's been slain. He came too close to the walls. Brave, but foolhardy. So Captain Martin is dead. So the enemy is retreating once again, seeing that their general has fallen. Perhaps they're retreating for good now. No, they've decided to make another comeback. This is what happens when you don't have a general. It's fairly realistic, really. No one knows what they're doing. They're moving back and forth. They can't make up their minds. Now they're coming within range of the musketeers firing from the walls, and that's not so good. And you can see another problem. They are just running, but they're not shooting. They should be advancing in some more organized way. And this is the problem I was getting at. So they're just running. They've been fired at. They don't stop to fire back. They just run. They should have loaded muskets. So I have tried and failed to make the musketeers fire on their march or on their retreat. The rotation of the ranks animation is there, but it is slightly buggy, and in any case we could not edited so as to make the Musketeers fire as their formation advances or retreats. In other words, if the AI moves its army as a combined force, which we achieved at some point, the Musketeers should try to fire as the formation advances. Instead, what they do is they just run and try to catch up with the pikemen, and they would not fire. The animation is so broken then it takes them too long to reload, so half a minute they start, the animation loading the muskets, whereas many of the ranks would have been loading while the others were shooting earlier on. They should have already loaded muskets, so it should not take so long to fire back, not half a minute. So some of the ranks should be ready to fire on the march, but they never do. So then you get in situations...
Our men are winning the battle. If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
Such as you saw in the siege, where no one was shooting, they were just running. They're all waiting to reload, and something happens, some movement, and then the animation has to start all over again, another half a minute. And all through this time, they are being fired at by the human player from the walls, from the garrison, and they get massacred without even firing back very much. So here what we've seen is that the enemy Silesian engineers trying to attack.
Very much in our favor. If we remain true and steadfast, victory will be ours.
They are armed with axes, and they got massacred by fire from our musketeers, and now they're being taken prisoner by our arquebusiers. And they hardly any of them got killed. They're all being taken prisoners, as if they were doing this on purpose, to be taken prisoner. So there are some musketeers here. They are making a show of defiance. They've been broken along with the pikemen are still in good order. There are some enemy pikemen here, some Imperialist pikemen. They are still in good order. So, the problem with the firing by rank that doesn't happen is a big problem in this mod. There are also a few things that are impossible with the M2, the Medieval 2 engine, such as making musketeers to take cover in trenches or behind hedges or stone walls, etc. They don't even exist. Also, it would be nice to have dragoons that could mount and dismount actual horses. That's not possible. So here our arquebusiers are running after the retreating enemy. And here are some enemy pikemen. They are one of the last enemy units, still in good order, but only a few of them have been left. They've been decimated. Our arquebusiers are firing at their flank as the rest of the enemy units are abandoning the field of battle. And so the enemy pikemen here show defiance, they make a show of resistance, but this time no chance. Our arquebusiers can skirmish away from into it, so this is pointless for them. And so finally they have been routed, and our arquebusiers charge them, take them prisoner. More enemy units here are retreating. They were being covered by those pikemen.
Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press the attack.
And our enemy has been broken. Here our arquebusiers are taking prisoners some Cossack dragoons. You can see them there. They are not on their horses. Perhaps the horses were scattered in the confusion of the battle, so they're running on foot. Or you can imagine they're on horses. If you have good imagination. graphics work very well for this mod for the pike and shot period. That's one thing that's great. They're very nice graphics. Also the animations, I think, for the units with firearms are better than some of the other animations. Maybe they were done last. So the units armed with firearms have very nice animations, especially the cavalry. And here's our general. He's made quite a big contribution to victory today. He's personally fought in the battle, and he has forced the enemy on several occasions to stop retreating and counter-attack us until they were eventually destroyed. Most of the enemy army has been taken prisoner.
This is a clear victory that goes to only men of great virtue and valor.
So, Georg von Brandenburg-Bayreuth has won a great victory with a loss of only 42 men. The old-school Musketeers firing from the walls did very well, killing 359 of the enemy. The Imperialists lift the siege of Glogau and retreat. They do not ransom the prisoners, so the prisoners will be drafted into Swedish service. Perhaps that is why they were in two minds about retreating. Perhaps they were just looking for an excuse to surrender and then join our side, we'd like to think.
Such is the fate of all who oppose us.
Glogau has been saved, and our general has gained in command rank. There are more winter battles to follow. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching.